Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. 50 years of hip hop, heading into 51 years of hip hop. Big shout out to the Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. And if you would like to learn how you can support the podcast in that way, and there are other ways, including merch, logo items. I got some other things up my sleeve for later. You can visit the links in the description of this very episode. So whether you're listening, the links are there. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can also check out the description for those links. Big shout out to the subscribers over at the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, you need to. The video version gives you a little bit more animation, a little bit more comedy, right? Because you can see what I mean when I say it, right? You see it on my face, like, yo, son, I'm really mad. Or, yo, I'm really happy. Whatever it may be. But big shout out to those who have subscribed, because we are on the road to 500. Now, previously, I said, we got a couple and then we can get to 400. Well, we're at 401 now. So 599 more subscribers is not difficult. Trust me. I subscribe to a ton of different YouTube channels. Some of them are complete nonsense. Completely don't put that much into their production. But guess what? I like what they do, so I subscribe. So if you like what you're hearing today, or you've watched any of the content and you check in every now and again and all that, hit that subscribe button. And most importantly, share it with people, whether it's on Discord or any other social media platform that you know would enjoy this kind of hip hop content. Now, elephant in the room, it's not me, it's you. But last week, I had to take a week off. Brother was down bad. I'm even down bad now, but I done drugged up, so I'm feeling good. I don't feel anything. But if you've ever had issues with your wisdom tooth or any sensitivity with your teeth to the point where it's throbbing, you don't want to talk. You don't want to talk about anything. You don't want to talk about hip hop. You don't want to talk about anything. It could be anything going on. All I did was type my thoughts because I didn't want to talk. So I took the week off, which was good. Some breathing room, a couple of things happened. So a couple of these stories we have today, or thoughts from me, are basically me kind of catching up on bigger stories. Obviously, there's some things happening in this week. There's some things that happened, no diddy, but we don't really talk about stuff like that here, unless we have to. But we rather focus on music in general, right? And what you can go out and play and listen to, and your thoughts about hip hop in general. So big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, and a couple of places where I'm getting some of these stories from. Let's get right into the business though. So this is coming from hiphopdx.com, and it says Nicki Minaj, Q-Tip, and Chuck D back campaign to protect artists from artificial intelligence. Now, everybody listening and everybody watching, there's a reason why I created a show like this. You know why? Everybody's not following the news. Everybody's not following the trends. Everyone is not in the know. So with that being said, for the people who don't know, or the people who kind of know but don't really know, whatever, it kind of was a thing that was trending for a while when, all these ways to generate music for some of your favorite artists using their voice, but using artificial intelligence, it got rampant. I mean, dudes were making full-blown Drake albums that sound better than the album Drake released. I think when I talked about this before, I did a whole episode on, artificial intelligence and what it could mean. But I think it's gotten a little out of hand. And it makes me think back now, if you're a gamer, you feel me, especially if you're a sports gamer. We're just getting NCAA football back after almost 10 years or so of not having it as a part of an annual release like we do with Madden. And a lot of that, and not just football, but also NCAA basketball went away. And that had a lot to do with the fact that uh, using a player's likeness, right? Ed O'Bannon had a case because he was basically used as, the cover athlete and the star in a game of NCAA basketball. He used to play for UCLA. What really without his permission, like, you using his likeness in this game and you're making millions of dollars and he's not seeing a dime of it, right? And this is before NIL and players getting paid. This is part of the catalyst of that, right? Of why it's changed. And to me, it's changed for the better. These schools have been making money off these kids forever. But nevertheless, I just remember being in the comments of videos or forums for it and seeing people who were ignorant to what likeness meant, to the point where they were like, yo, we got to lose these games just because, they used his likeness. Like, what's his problem? What do you mean? It's his face. It's his career. It's him. If you're going to use something that is uniquely me to sell your game, I need a bag, right? That's kind of what that's what we're dealing with here in a lot of ways when it comes to artificial intelligence. If a dude can go and make an entire Drake album, right? It sounds like Drake, like all the way down to the breaths that he takes in his music. You could literally go to a corner of the web where a lot of people probably dwell, but it's not like you're not going to Twitter or anything like that and say, yo, this is on the low. Drake has this one album he recorded, All About Love, or whatever, I break it down. And it's never coming out, but I have a copy. $5, $2, $3. There are people who will believe it. They don't ask no questions, even with knowledge of AI, or they don't have any knowledge of AI, because there's a lot of people who just don't know what the news means when they talk about that stuff. So in a lot of ways, you've seen it. You've seen it with deceased rappers, right? This Tupac song, this Biggie song, putting Tupac voice on Biggie records and vice versa. Michael Jackson rapping. You've seen all this craziness in the world of entertainment. You can't do that. But because AI was never factored in this way, especially with a lot of things with the internet or what artists are going through with streaming, because it was never factored in to their contracts to make an agreement about likeness and usage and blah, 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 that now they're fighting to say, hey, this is kind of unfair, because what can we do, right? What can you do if Drake puts out an album officially that we don't like, but this other album that this AI guy did that has Drake's voice and his cadence and the type of music he would make, and this album is better? That's going to impact Drake. And I'm just using Drake as an example. Imagine somebody who doesn't have the financial stability of a Drake and they have to battle somebody making something better. It kind of kills momentum, right? And of course, there's some people, go get the real thing. But I'm telling y'all, the stuff I'm pointing out the Drake joint because I thought that was the best I heard as far as usage of AI. So it's been pretty crazy, but nevertheless, here's a little bit from the article just to get into it. Nicki Minaj, Q-Tip, and Chuck D are among a huge group of artists supporting a campaign to protect artists from having their music violated by artificial intelligence. An open letter organized by the Artists' Rights Alliance sets out their opposition to the use of AI within the music industry after tech companies such as YouTube began experimenting AI making tools, experimenting with. The open letter says we must protect against the predatory use of AI to steal artists' voices and likenesses. The artists also called upon tech companies to not undermine or replace the human artistry of songwriters and artists or deny us fair compensation for our work. So you can check out the whole thing there. There's even an Instagram for the Artists' Rights Alliance. The post says 200 plus artists signed open letter calling on AI developers, tech platforms not to devalue music and undermine artists' rights. Now, I'm a tech person, so I love new technology. I'm also an artist person. And I don't care what you feel about their music. I totally agree with them, because this is what you have to be careful of when you just say, nah, it's all good. It's promotion for me. They will make it so you won't see a dime and you won't own it. And your AI version supplants you, right? Yeah, we don't want to sign a new deal with you. We've been working out this thing with this Drake clone music, and actually it's more popular than you. So bye-bye. Whatever, right? Obviously, it would never happen that way, but that's the extreme, right? Where we saw it, where somebody record label, this was like a year or so ago, a record label signed an AI rapper. And everybody went crazy, like, what? What kind of blah, blah, blah? And it never happened, but they only did it because they knew what was coming, right? Because what they would want ultimately is to officially create an artist that's popular that they can tweak down to the T. And there's no human emotions with that, right? Now it becomes almost like analytics for music, right? Like, and it's already like that, to be honest. There's certain, like, for example, when you think about a hit record and you see all these names on it, and you don't really hear what was done, like, damn, all those people worked on it, like, what they do? Would you hit the one drum and he hit the other? Like, what? But there's a lot that goes into that. If you could feed that into an AI software and create the type of artist that is going to get you the money you need, because it's going to have the popularity and it's going to be catchy and capture the crowd and become some kind of trendy thing to do, that AI will, because for one, you don't have to really pay that AI, right? Maybe you working with Google and you paying them. Maybe there's a partnership with them. Like, there's a way to keep certain artists out because you have ghostwriters, right? And just to end it, because I don't want to spend too much time with this, but in a lot of ways, what you could do is, there's a ton of people, I don't care if you're hip hop or not, there's a ton of people who have ghostwriters to a certain level, right? I'm talking about the successful hit making artists. There's some people who ain't even hit makers that got them. But you will never know who the ghostwriters are in some instances, right? You can take off an army of writers and really only have one that works in tandem with the AI software, because in a lot of ways, it's a job waiting to happen if it hasn't already happened. It's a job that a lot of people are going to wind up applying for, whether it's on the low or by accident or by proxy, because if you know how to use the tools, you can get the best out of it. And if you are a songwriter by nature, then you know how to tweak it so it's not off. And this is artificial intelligence, is gathering data, is going and looking for data, but it's also gathering data to the point where it's learning what you already know. as a songwriter. And soon it won't need you. When we give it that command, like, yo, write me a song about the sun, moon, and stars, and the pyramids, and the conscious rappers coming through the spaceships, and it will go ahead and do that. You know how I know? Because I've done it. Coming up on my next project, I have a song that will show you just what I'm talking about. I've already done it. And is it the greatest song I ever made? No. But it's pretty remarkable to know that I didn't write it. I described it. And I let it use my voice. And it sounds exactly like me. It's scary, y'all. And it's what Drake says, scary hours. It's scary hours. So I don't know. We'll see, and we'll see if that actually comes out. Because if it sounds whack, what's the point? But nevertheless, it's possible. It's very possible, and it's only going to get better as the technology gets smarter and more efficient, and it's going to be easier for anybody to do it. Like I said on my special where I talk strictly about AI, I said the number one thing that is going to open the door for is if you've always wanted to rhyme and knew what you would talk about, but you just didn't have the skill to put them words together. You don't have to worry now. You put your voice in the AI machine, you tell them what you want to rap about, right? You want to rap about weed all the time, and it even create the hooks. I'm not lying. So there you have it. What do you think about artificial intelligence? What these artists are doing? Do you agree? Are you afraid of AI and where it could go? I'm kind of back and forth. I'm afraid of it in this instance, what I mentioned, but there are other uses for it where it's pretty dope. So we shall see. So while I was out on the injured reserve list with my dental issue, Roc Marciano dropped his latest album, Marciology. It is a 14-track, 46 minutes in length album with a lot of production by him. I don't know who else did production because, we don't get credits on these apps anymore. So I would have to do some digging. But nevertheless, I know he did production on it. Guest appearances include Crime Apple, Larry June, Flea Lord, Jay Worthy. And I'm not gonna hold y'all, right? You know my scale. If you don't, my first first listen is for impressions. My second listens is sort of to listen a little bit more intently, a little deeper as far as the lyrics and the concepts and the beats and how it all comes together. And the third listen is to confirm my thoughts about the whole project. Well, given I've had more time to listen to this than most albums, I've listened to it a lot. And my fast verdict, for those who just want to know how I feel, I don't like it. But let me explain. Is it whack? Not by a long shot. Lil Yachty is whack. I would never say Roc Marciano is Lil Yachty. Never. Not even close. Not even close. But some of y'all like to say he's nice or the best doing it right now as an MC. And I say no. Now, obviously, that's your opinion, is my opinion, whatever. But I feel like if I say Ransom is nice, that's the bar for being nice. Not the actual bar, but that's the limit, right? And you can even be a little bit up under that. You don't have to be as nice as Ransom, but you could be like, yo, he nice too, right? I feel like my history, well, let me just say this. My history with Roc Marciano is this. When he first came around with Busta and them, I thought he was the nicest one in that crew. I was like, oh, they got somebody, next Rod Digger too. But he was another what Baby Sham was kind of nice. Let me not front. But Wait, was that his name? I don't know. But I thought Roc Marciano was nice. And a lot of his early projects, especially when I was hosting the hip hop show in B More, I really messed with him, right? Because hip hop was in a different space and he was doing he was kind of keeping boom bap alive in a certain way. But then there was this switch where I had stopped listening and I picked it back up because I heard so many people talking about him and how dope he was. And I remember just liking him. So I was like, yeah, let me listen. And it felt different. It felt like it sounded like a man who either two things, because I don't know this man. I don't know what he think. I don't know what his motivation is. This is my observation now. Either he believes his own hype, therefore he believes whatever he says is going to be hot, which is what I see from a lot of his fans. The big fans, not just anybody who likes it, but big fans. Or hip hop, and this is true, hip hop has become so watered down that he's just feeding the machine. Now, when I say that, I mean it's kind of better. Like, don't hurt me, but it's kind of better. The more simple you are, the better it is for the listeners, because not everybody can catch your bars like that. Some people have been listening to Nas for years and missing all kinds of bars. You know what I'm saying? Listening to Pusha T, they just, because they don't hear it, right? It's so technical or whatever. But sometimes when you say something that's cool that they can relate to, you're nice to them because they can recite it, they can repeat it. And that's a thing in hip hop now. Like, it just makes sense. And that's not new, right? Because early on in hip hop, it was simplistic, right? But nobody said that. It was just catchy. You said the lyrics, you liked them, you can relate to them. The end. It was in the 90s, in East Coast specifically, when it became really technical and almost became the bar for being dope, right? If you wasn't this technical with it, you wasn't a lyricist, or you wasn't nice like that. And hip hop has never just been one thing, just never. So on one hand, I feel like, well, maybe that's what it is. Because when I listen to Roc Marciano rhyme, I feel like I'm a bigger fan of Roc Marciano's production than I am of him as a rapper. I don't think he's bad as a rapper. I think he says a lot of cool shit. Sorry, it's a family podcast. Cool wit, whatever. If your kid's listening, it didn't happen. But you know what I'm saying? I think he's what the young kids call a vibe, right? To me, I used to call it like mood music. Like, if I just wanted some boom bap and some slick talk, I get it. And honestly, I'm not even mad at anybody who really likes this album or any of the other albums he released, because I say the same thing about Rick Ross. Rick Ross is basically talking about some of the same things all the time, but I like the production. I like the vibe of it. I like, what he says and how he delivers it. So it was almost the same as Roc Marci. And I know some people go, oh, Roc Marci way better than Rick Ross, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. All I know is that the first song on this album, Marciology, almost made me turn it off. Because I was looking for a point in time where I could just be in that kind of mood where, just put this boom bap on, take it back to the block on it, play that joint. And I remember the beat didn't really catch me. And when Roc Marci started rhyming, I was like, this is just like that Shiggy skit. Remember when he was like, how 90s rappers be? And he was like, possible, bobbable. This is vegetable, eating your vegetables. It was just like that. I was like, yo, what's the difference? And again, I'm not looking for every rapper to put some kind of puzzle together that I got to figure out. Because even I get tired of that and want to hear somebody like a Currency or whoever. So in a lot of ways, I was just like, oh, whatever. And I feel like going through the album, there was more than that I liked than I disliked. But on my listens, I just felt like I'm listening to this because it's out. It's the center of a conversation right now. And the minute something else drops, I'm going to forget about it. Or I'm just going to go back to the joints that I truly like. Like I said, with my Benny the Butcher joint, Benny the Butcher's album was a letdown for me because I thought it would be better. It wasn't whack, but here we are. And it's one of the albums I go back to and listen because it's enough to satisfy, for me, that feel, that boom bap feel, that street talk, that slick talk. But the bars are just a little bit more potent. Now, the lead single, which came with a video, what was it called? Gold Crossbow. Rhyming wise, it's everything I just said. But production wise, man. We already got enough people talking about Roc Marciano as the best rapper. That's cool. I don't agree with y'all, but that's cool. But when we talk about boom bap beats, y'all better put some respect on that man's name. That man, when I wasn't really like checking for Stove God, and I heard Rolls Royce brake lights, it's not just Stove God that makes that song dope. It's that beat. And I'm like, yo. People talk about, okay, Hit Boy and Nas did their thing. I still want my Primo and Nas. No, give me Roc Marci on the beats and Nas. Okay? Give me that. If you want to do a new Illmatic, gather all of them dudes now and do that. Right? I'm not talking about go back to Pete Rock and up. No, like, who's the new crop? Okay, y'all want Derringer? Okay, boom, Derringer, Roc Marci for sure. Because for all the beats that are on this album, again, I don't know if he did all of them. I know most of them he did, but some of them I don't know. Like, maybe Alchemist did one or two. But nevertheless, just his production in general, he has a signature sound, but he doesn't. You feel me? Like, he doesn't have a sound, because to me, like, Premier became predictable over time, where you just know it's Premier. It kind of has the same rhythm. It's just a different beat. Roc Marci joints is just like, it's everywhere. Like, yo, if you haven't heard the song Gold Crossbow, I don't think I've ever heard a beat like that before. And it reminds me of when I first heard RZA, when I was like, yo, I don't think I've ever heard beats like this before, or samples like this that you turn into beats. It's pure gutter boom bap. And I think in a lot of ways, there's some people who love Roc Marci because of that. Like, it's not really, oh, well, yeah, he ain't better than Pusha T, but the production he does and the way he lays his vocals to it, I mess with that whole vibe. I get it. So when I say it's not good, I'm just saying I don't see myself listening to it for very much longer, to be honest. Is it one of the best of the year? Well, at the end of the year, I always revisit the bigger releases, the albums that I said were dope, just to, check myself and see what happens. So I can't say that I'll be listening to this, because I feel there's a lot of boom bap artists in this category, but I really love the production. And I listened to Group Home, and I think Roc Marci better than both of them. So I mean, I'm saying, what do you want from a brother? But what do you think? Do you like Roc Marciano's new album, Marciology? Are you a big Roc Marciano fan? How do you feel about his bars? What do you think it is about him that his fans gravitate towards? What are they? Why would they say he's so consistent? What do they really like about him? You know, if you're one of those people, leave your comments in the comment section below. I'm no hater. I like to learn why people like certain artists, whether I agree or disagree. I just know what I felt listening to this project. And lastly, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I was on injury reserve and I was, you know, a little late to the party. But I wanted to share my thoughts on not just the Kendrick Lamar verse going at J. Cole and Drake, but just the simple fact that it was on an album called We Don't Trust You, but produced by Metro Boomin with Future as a standout MC. And just the fallout from that, so to speak. And the theories of who's this and who, why we ain't heard a response yet. Drake, you know how he go. It's all about I'm not gonna be your friends mostly. J. Cole is really focused on his tour. At least that's what it seems, unless he's gonna put it on the upcoming album, which could happen. But and a lot of and I have spoken about it, but I just have further thoughts because of the Metro Boomin and Future part. I feel like, and let's add, you know, Rick Ross bumping the Kendrick diss and staring in the camera. I'm like, damn, Drake, you got problems. You and Ross got problems now. This is the thing. In a lot of ways, it's made battling in hip hop different because what Kendrick is doing is what we know, right? He's being very direct. I'm dissing you and him. Let's go. Who won it? I don't think he did it and just said, I only got a verse. I think the clip is full for whoever want to respond when they respond, right? I think J. Cole don't even want to do this, which I'm not even mad at him for that. I think part of his reason for saying the big three was to acknowledge Kendrick. But I think Kendrick don't like Drake. And he for damn sure don't like you teaming up with Drake. And I think Drake knew it when he was giving you flowers on stage. I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of things he was doing that felt like he was gathering allies in some ways, like 21 Savage and all that. And that a battle was happening, but it wasn't out there. And this album, along with Kendrick's verse, puts it out there. But I gotta say, after we've had some time to breathe, if J. Cole responds, it will be in probably a very mature, you know, you were my brother kind of way, which is cool. I don't think it's going to be vicious at all. And I think Drake will continue to do subliminals and indirects and like he's doing now. And the one thing that I don't like around this whole situation is people talking about the response time. Now, and you know, people can talk about whatever they want to talk about, but my whole thing is like, okay, in battles in the past, and I'm talking about just hip hop history, responses didn't happen right away. They just didn't. Like they happened and you waited, right? Sometimes you waited months before that person actually responded. And then it just kicked things back up. I think when Drake did back to back, it was the first time. That's what makes that song have so much power, because everybody was anticipating, and then Drake just said what we were thinking when he put out that one record which nobody remembers, dissing Meek, and then when it was like a week later, he put out back to back. You know, like, okay, y'all taking forever, here's another diss record, right? So it kind of felt like Drake changed the expectations for responses with his battling all the time. But I think with this one, It's difficult for him to just jump in because he know Kendrick is not. Kendrick ain't on that type of time. Kendrick is probably ready. He probably been ready. When he like that's probably light. That verse is probably light compared to what he holding, waiting for you to jump out the window. And honestly, it's kind of smart for them to take their time and be measured if they're going to say something, because you want whatever your response to be to have enough of an impact to at least make it debatable, right? Even if Kendrick comes out with a song that's better afterwards, at least you can have people who can argue for what you did. Because if you jump out the window real quick and you make something that's kind of weak, and this man come out with another one, he reads you up and down, it is over. There's nothing you could ask Jay-Z. Ask Jay-Z. Takeover, there was only one verse that was about Nas. It had 4 verses. Only one of them joints was about Nas. Ether was all about Jay-Z, but it took months to come out. And Jay-Z tried to, off emotions, try to jump in the booth and did Super Ugly. At first, it wasn't an original beat. And 2, it was probably one of his worst performances, especially as a dude who can battle, because it was all emotion, jump out the window, and everybody knew it. Even the stands knew it. They tried to rewrite history, but we know what happened. We were there. He lost. Okay, he said it. But it could have been better. Because then Jay-Z could have said, oh, here's my full song, Nas. Instead, we had to wait a year later where the damage was already done. Most people don't even remember that the song Blueprint 2 is essentially like a diss record towards Nas. If that would have dropped closer to when Ether dropped, it would have been a different conversation. But because he had already put Super Ugly out and that became the response, the ref was like, yo, like what they do in WWE with the X's, like, nah, man, this dude hurt. Come help. So I don't know. At this point, I was hyped when that Kendrick joint came out. Obviously, Kendrick's my favorite artist, but I like the other 2 just as much. I got a lot of their music, if not all of it. But then there's a part of me that feels like, I don't know, this is kind of getting corny, because as good as Drake has been in most of his battles, even though whether you feel he won or lost, I'm kind of tired of seeing him. And I don't think Kendrick and J. Cole will have the same type of energy as 2 people who really don't like each other. They're having a difference of opinions, but them brothers will, their 2 temperaments, they would come right back together and be and be cool, and nobody would care. Like with Jay-Z and Nas, people don't want to let that go. Tupac and Biggie, they ain't even really battle, and people don't want to let that go. And it'll be nice though, fans can debate here and there, but it's nothing like 2 cats, who didn't mess with each other in the beginning, don't really mess with each other now. So we'll see. What do y'all think? Y'all waiting for, Drake and J. Cole to say something? Maybe they've already said something, and this whole thing coming out, when it's coming out, this podcast means absolutely nothing anymore. Let's talk about it in the comment section below on YouTube, where we trying to get to 500. So if you haven't already, check out the YouTube channel. We got other series like the return of That Time in Hip Hop with me and Tony of IntoTheDome.com, along with the Tale of the Tape series, where I got 12 episodes talking about cassette tapes I bought back in the day, back in the 90s. 12 episodes out right now, another 12 coming as we reach, get a little closer to the summertime. So check those all out on the channel and subscribe. And if you deal with audio, that's cool too. Subscribe on the audio side of things. It's available everywhere. And most importantly, share it with people enjoy this kind of content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.